Hey YouTube, let's talk about simple versus complex carbohydrates, as well as simple versus complex carbohydrates around your workouts. So quite frequently, our diet consists of complex and simple carbohydrates. Now I say quite frequently because some people just eat candy, and that's simple carbohydrates, and some people just eat yams, like people like me. I love my yams and sweet potatoes, which are complex. So does it make a big difference, simple versus complex carbohydrates in your body? Yes, but no, and kinda sorta. Does that make any fucking sense? Anybody else confused? Just me? Alright, let's talk about it. So when is the best time to take in simple carbohydrates? Or what does a simple fuck it. Let's go back to brass tacks. What the hell do carbohydrates even do? So carbohydrates are used as a fuel in the body, just like fat and protein can be. However, complex and simple carbohydrates are broken down and are used as glycogen in the cells, glucose in the bloodstream, etc., etc. They are used by the various parts of your body, muscles, heart, brain, everything, to fuel it. Now that we know that carbs equal fuel, what's the difference between a simple and a complex carb? So, simple versus complex carbs are basically the way that the carbohydrate chain is formed and how easily it is broken down in your body. For example, table sugar, like sugar that would be in like a Snickers bar, is a simple carbohydrate. It's very quickly and easily broken down, and your body can use it as fuel like that. Whereas something like sweet potatoes, which is a complex carbohydrate, needs to be broken down more slowly over time in order to get the same effect. So, what kind of carbohydrate you take in will determine how fast that energy hits your system. Oh my god, this is going to end up being a medical fucking thing. In the body, there's something called the pancreas. Alright, you guys have probably heard of it. For those of you that have never called it this, start calling it the angry pancreas, because there is no organ in the body that can fuck shit up more than the pancreas. Not the heart, not the brain, the pancreas. It is the mother of all organs. And the reason is, it secretes insulin from islet cells. And insulin is required to get energy anywhere in the body. So your heart could be pissy and like having palpitations. You'll live. Your brain could be having issues, but other parts of your brain will be like, the frontal lobe's being a bitch, let's take over and let's do things. And you'll live. Pancreas shuts down, you're fucked. So it's the angry pancreas. Remember that, guys. Angry pancreas. So the pancreas secretes insulin in response to glucose in the bloodstream and shunts that glucose to different parts of the body. If you don't have insulin, glucose doesn't get into the cells. You guys have heard of a disease called diabetes? Maybe kind of made the news every once in a while. So people with diabetes have shitty pancreases or insulin insensitivity if you're very, very, very overweight. And your pancreas either doesn't produce insulin, type 1 diabetic, or what we call insulin-dependent diabetic now, IDDM, or you're insulin insensitive either due to age or you're overweight, which is a non-insulin dependent diabetic, which means you don't have to inject insulin into your body to make shit work. You can just kind of tell the pancreas to stop being a bitch and start producing more insulin. So what happens is when you eat sugar, or you eat carbohydrates, it gets broken down and glucose enters the bloodstream. This then sends a signal to say, hey, by the way, pancreas, let's do this thing, come on now. Pancreas goes, oh, okay, yeah, all right. The insulin, go do your thing. And insulin flushes into the bloodstream. That glucose is then, the insulin binds to cells, and glucose is allowed to go into the cells in order to power them. Now, provided you're not insulin insensitive or a diabetic in any way, shape, or form, all this is done naturally. Alright? Now, when you eat simple carbohydrates, this causes a fast insulin spike because the glucose goes into your bloodstream like that. So all of a sudden the pancreas is like, well, shit. So it just jacks the insulin up. Insulin binds to your cells, the glucose goes out of your bloodstream. And that's why you might have heard of like an energy dump, or like you get like a sugar high and then a dump. Well, that's because all glucose is back out of your bloodstream. Now obviously you don't hit zero, because then you'd fucking be dead. You'd be hypoglycemic in my emergency room. But my point being is you get that insulin spike and then it goes back to normalized levels. If, on the other hand, you're eating complex carbohydrates that are broken down more slowly, your blood sugar relatively stays the same. Or you don't get that spike, you might just get like a little bit of an elevation, so the pancreas just lets out a little bit of insulin. Taking a quick segue, you may have heard of bodybuilders injecting insulin. This is why they do it. Because after a really heavy workout, when their muscles need glucose and protein and everything to rebuild, the pancreas will only produce so much insulin to make that happen. So what you do is don't do this, don't you fucking do this. But they would inject insulin, they'll inject insulin into their body, artificially make their body get glucose into the cells, right? So that more energy goes to the cells to allow them to rebuild. Don't you fucking do it. It's bad for you. Anyways, that's why they inject insulin, is because they can make their body do things that it wouldn't normally do. Whereas the rest of us, our pancreas can only produce so much insulin so fast, and it will only do it in response to so many carbohydrates. So simple versus complex carbohydrates. We now know that simple ones cause an insulin spike, and then a dump once all that glucose is out of the cells. Is this thing shaking? It is shaking. Weird. Or am I having a stroke? I'm having a stroke. Let's finish the video anyways. Fuck the hospital. Now, if you eat complex carbohydrates, you don't get that insulin spike, but you do just get that normalized, like, increased blood sugar level so that glucose can go to your cells and help you rebuild. So when's the best time to take in simple carbohydrates? When's the best time to take in complex carbohydrates? Doesn't fucking matter. Well, it turns out, yeah, it kind of does, actually. Who knew? Me, and now you, and everybody else. It's pretty common knowledge, actually, in the bodybuilding world, in the fitness world. So, carrying on as I power through this stroke, pre-workout, if you want to go ahead and take a simple carbohydrate, right, say half an hour to 60 minutes before a workout, you're going to create an insulin spike. So as you're working out and as you're powering through an exercise, your body's creating more insulin to allow the rush of glucose to the muscles to let you keep powering through that workout. You might find at the end of a workout, you're just like, oh my God, I'm literally so tired I can't fucking breathe. Like, what's going on? Well, that's because your body has kind of chewed through all the excess glucose that it had, and now you're getting that dump we talked about. Or alternatively, simple carbohydrates after a workout are very effective. After you're done working out, when your body wants to rebuild, giving it a simple carbohydrate, causing that insulin spike, allows a rush of glucose to the muscles, allowing them to rebuild faster. Don't get caught up in the whole anabolic window thing, because it's a bunch of bullshit. And I can explain why in another video if I haven't already made a video on why science has shown that the anabolic window isn't actually 2 hours, but the first couple hours after a workout, you do have the highest. It really is shaking, isn't it? I'm just going to put my hand here for a second. You do really have a higher a threshold of muscle rebuilding, but it's not so significant that if you miss that 2 hour window that you're going to lose all your gains. Don't believe that shit. It's garbage. God, anyways, don't know what's going on here. Maybe, are we having an earthquake? Or am I still having that fucking stroke? If it lasts more than 60 seconds, well, actually, no, if the symptoms last more than an hour, it's a stroke. If it's less than an hour, it's a TIA, transient ischemic attack. But let's hope it's not over an hour. So you can fool your body into releasing more insulin than it would normally release to allow muscle building to fuel your workouts better and allow your muscles to rebuild faster. So timing complex carbohydrates before or after a workout, or simple carbohydrates before and after workout can be advantageous to you as a lifter. Simple carbohydrates before a workout gets that like blood sugar raise, that insulin raise, and as you're pumping iron and your body's getting rid of all the glucose in the muscle, more glucose is being rushed in by that insulin. After a workout, when your muscles are depleted of glucose and it needs energy to rebuild, a nice, simple, shitty carbohydrate can let that glucose get to the muscle faster. So then why would we even bother eating complex carbs? Simply, when you do that insulin dump, if you eat nothing but simple carbohydrates and your body doesn't need that excess carbohydrates or that excess glucose, you're gonna store it as fat, right? If you eat a bunch of eat 8 Snickers bars after a workout, but you only needed the sugar from 4, you get all that 4 Snickers bars rushes in, and your body's like, well, I still got all this energy from 4 Snickers bars. I guess I'll just store it in adipose fat until I need it then, right? So eating nothing but simple carbohydrates isn't always the best, which is where complex carbohydrates come in. Filling in the remainder of your diet on the outskirts of that pre-post workout area is where you want to eat your complex carbs. Eating a complex carb for breakfast, for example, like oatmeal. I love oatmeal for breakfast. Oh, oatmeal. You eat oatmeal for breakfast, and that just gives you energy throughout the day. Super simple. Like if you didn't even work out, like those complex carbs will fuel you for the whole day. But when it comes time for the rubber to meet the pavement and you want to lift, sometimes, yeah, you'll still have energy because you're digesting complex carbohydrates, but a simple carbohydrate, letting that insulin spike happen, might be a little bit more effective. But once you don't need that insulin spike and you just need normal energy going into your cells for rebuilding, eat complex carbohydrates. So it's like complex, simple, complex. And now you're tricking your body into working for you rather than you working for your body. 10 minutes, good God, sorry I've been talking so long, guys. There is advantages to pre and post workout simple carbohydrates, but not all the time, because if you don't need it, your body will store it as fat, and your body really doesn't want to give up fat, right? We are genetically inclined to hold on to fat for lean times. Think hunter-gatherer times, way back when, right? We would eat and eat and eat and eat and store fat, and then when all of a sudden we couldn't find animals for a month, we would use our body fat to survive. Well, same things now, we haven't evolved that much. So know how to play with your body. Know how to play with your body. I'm the only one that laughed at that? Alright, I'm a fucking child. But know how to use your body against itself, right? You do need, like, complex carbohydrates should be the vast majority of your diet, in my opinion, and in most people in the fitness world's opinion. But using those simple carbohydrates can be quite beneficial pre and post. I hope that makes sense, guys. I hope I didn't make a very simple topic overly complicated in my mind that I'm having this stroke in. For all I know, I'm actually babbling at a camera right now, drooling, and one of you should be calling 911, but you're not, because you're a jerk and you're going to finish the video. So that's it. Really simple. Simple versus complex carbohydrates. Does it make a huge difference? No, not really. You can use them against yourself. If you ate nothing but complex carbohydrates, you wouldn't really suffer that bad. As long as your diet's in check and you're not eating a shit ton of simple carbohydrates, you're not going to store a lot of body fat either. Like if you ate nothing but simple carbohydrates, but you're in a calorie deficit, you're not going to store fat. But if you're eating it above a calorie, if you're eating it above maintenance, right, and you're trying to bulk or something, then simple carbohydrates will get stored as fat faster than complex carbohydrates, right? Because your body will just be like, all right, my blood sugar's like here from the carbohydrates I'm eating, you know, so I need to produce X amount of insulin. But if you're doing nothing but doing this, your body's got no fucking clue what's going on. It's just gonna start storing shit. So simple, pre-post, complex the rest of the time. That's my humble opinion. If you like your Snickers bars, you like your ice cream, you like your junk food that has simple carbohydrates in, use it to your advantage if you're going to eat them, and eat it right like 30 minutes to 60 minutes before a workout or immediately after a workout to get that insulin spike response. Other than that, complex carbs. But keep in mind that if you overeat either of them, it's bad for you anyways. So that's it. Questions and comments down below, guys. I hope this explains simple versus complex carbohydrates, how they work in your body, how the angry pancreas controls your entire body, but we didn't know that it did, but now you know that's the mother organ. Not this guy, not this guy. It's the angry pancreas. It controls everything. Because if it shuts down, you're dead. Now your heart shuts down, yeah, you're dead too, and your brain shuts down. Well, autonomic functions can still carry on depending on what parts shut down, believe it or not. But the angry pancreas, everything. Comments and questions down below, guys, and as always, eat like a bodybuilder and train like a powerlifter.